And good evening, good afternoon, good morning, everybody. Welcome on into the Dragon's Den. My name is Digital Dragon, otherwise known as Luke, and welcome on in. Welcome on in. It's a little weird today in the Dragon's Den because everything behind me is shut off. For those of you that follow me on Twitter, you would know that apparently we had a storm a couple of nights ago, and it took out the airflow gate for the second circuit of my AC ductwork that shifts cold air coming into this room. And so I was printing with the printers this morning, which wasn't too bad in the morning, but as the afternoon wore on, there was no cold air coming in here. And so next thing I know, the Voron started taking stepper driver overheating errors and shutting down. So right now I do have a fan on over here trying to suck some more of that hot air out and downstairs. I also have the downstairs door open with the AC cranked up on the downstairs circuit. So we'll see. We're going to try and make it work, and we're going to try and get through the build some tonight. It may be a little bit shorter night because of the warmth up here in the Dragon Den. So it may be a shorter night tonight, and then tomorrow may get disrupted because the AC repair guy window is somewhere between 2 and 6 o'clock. And I'm going to see what I can do to give them a call and see if I can say, hey, here's the part I think's busted. Make sure the guy has this on the truck. So hopefully he can fix it on one trip rather than multiple. But anyhow, that's it in a nutshell. Thank you all for being here. This is an off day stream for me. My stream is normally on Tuesdays and Thursday nights. But last night I had a meeting with, we were all the leaders were invited out to dinner by our VP who was in town visiting. So whenever the VP invites you to dinner on the company dime, you go to dinner. So I got a chance to hobnob with the VP, our new VP that we were reorged underneath a couple of months ago. And yeah, good times. So with that, progress. We've made some good progress on our Voron 2.4 build on the last stream. We got our frame built, the Z-axis linear rails installed, the Z idler mounts installed, and the Z motors installed. What that brings us to the next step in the manual would be installing the hot bed or the heated bed. I choose to hold off on doing that simply because it adds about 8 pounds of weight to the overall printer. And we're going to have to flip this over back and forth multiple times. So I normally wait until the last possible minute to install the bed, simply because it reduces the amount of weight that we're moving around as we're dealing with the printer. So we're going to skip the heated bed install, and we're going to go into the next section, which will be the A and B drive motors, and doing the build out of the A and B drive motors, the A and B idlers, and then we'll actually get into building the gantry. So that will be our plan for this evening. Don't see too many in here just yet, so we will kind of give it another couple of seconds while we wait for a few people to show up before we get the build started. I did see you in the room or in the stream, Dropsnat, so thank you for being here. And yes, I am still drinking coffee because hot or cold, you still need caffeine. So on the other news, we did finally get the heavy Mandalorian Halo mashup helmet printed. We did print this in actually Polymaker Draft PLA. But this helmet was printed with the ear antennas and stuff all in one. So this is a full helmet build out. I think there may be a handful of accoutrements that go with it other than just the visor material that will go into it. My intent is to sand this, try and get some of the layer lines out of it, and then do some paint testing out on this. See how I can make this look. But I really like the way that this came out, especially in that draft PLA. I am seeing a fair amount, I'm not sure if I can get on camera, there you go. I can see a fair amount of ringing in this. And I've run input shaper numerous times on this printer. So the only thing I can think of is I really need to get like a stall mat or something to cover the entire table. Because the belt printer should not be introducing this much of a ringing in here. And I've done input shaper numerous times. So I'm not sure what's causing the ringing. But it's faint. And you almost have to run your fingernail over it to feel it. I mean, it's going to sand out nicely. Don't worry about that. But it's just, yeah, it's annoying that I'm seeing so much of that ringing there. But maybe I can just go ahead and drop the accels down in the machine profile. And that might clean that up some as well. But yep, came out well. And it does fit. Though I will have to add a little bit of padding up there, at least a little bit of thickness of EVA foam, which will raise it up some. But the inside came out incredibly smooth. And yes, I did run infill all the way up. But it did come out incredibly smooth, so I don't need a whole lot of padding, just a little bit on the top there. You know, because I don't have any hair up here, so it does sit right on the skin. But yeah, this helmet came out really well. And I think I've seen some various techniques on how to get kind of a Beskar-y look, you know, Beskar armor look on it. So we're going to give that a shot and see if we can't get this one looking real nice. But the other armor that I'm building out is coming along very good. I've got the chest, the back, the abs, the ab front portions, the two back pieces I was working on. Hey, Chewy. And that's what finally tripped the overheating of my stepper drivers, was printing that. And I've got 2/3 of the jetpack printed. I just need the left side, I guess, of the backpack, top and bottom printed. Hey, Monlight, how's it going? I was just showing off one of the latest helmets. This is the one that failed on me twice at about like this height. Doing it in chrome, the silk chrome. So this is Polymaker Draft PLA. And I'm a little annoyed because I do see quite a lot of ringing in these parts. So I'm not sure what's going on and why I'm still getting so much ringing. So I'm going to try and put, I'm going to try and drop the overall accels in the printer profile down a little bit. And then I'm also going to probably just go and get like a rubber stall mat or something that I can put underneath the printer as well. Because right now it's just got the 4 rubber feet. This is the larger Ender 5. Okay, let me go back. Sucks had a. Did you have a stroke on Monday night? Or this friend just finished printing a stealth printer? Nice. Yeah, I still need to print the stealth printer for this printer, but I'm trying to make the internal decision of whether or not I want to put a Konami in it because I have another one. So like we did in the Trident, or if I want to just keep it the stock one. Oh, dude, I am so sorry to hear that, Mod Light. I am so sorry to hear that, brother. I hope everything goes well and that you recover fast from that. No, that is not good news. Hard to get the fans in it. And you got another issue. What's the other issue with the printer? Okay, what can we help you with, bud? So while he gets that going, I am going to switch the view here. And like I said, we're going to start with our A and B motors. We've got the Z motors done, the Z drives done, the Z axis linear rails, and the Z idlers installed. So we'll be working on the gantry now. Hey, Free Heathen, how are you doing, my friend? Hope you are doing well. Hope you're doing well, Free Heathen. Sorry I missed your stream earlier. Been dealing with some AC issues and troubleshooting here at the house. This room right now is about 80 degrees Fahrenheit. We had a storm a couple of nights ago, and I was sitting here today, and all of a sudden my printer started shutting down, they were shutting down because of the TMC stepper drivers were reporting overheating conditions. So the printers were shutting down. And I went downstairs and checked. The circuit breaker wasn't popped. And then I heard the external portion of the AC kick in. So I'm like, okay, so that's kicking in. Downstairs is cool. Why is it getting so hot up here? So I wound up going upstairs into the attic and noticed that the airflow gate, plenum, whatever you want to call it, feeding the main circuit for the downstairs has a light on it, whether it's open or closed, and the status of how far open it is. The one on the circuit that feeds this room, there's no lights, and I can't manually open it either because it's driven by a 24-volt signal. So I know that's the issue. It's opened a little bit, so it's like at point, or it's at the first of 4 notches. So it's probably open about 10-15%. So I kind of dropped the temperature downstairs, hoping that I would get a little bit of airflow that gets directed up here. And I have a fan that's just trying to suck air out of this room, but it's not working. So everything up here is shut down except for my streaming gear right now. Thank you. Yes, one day at a time. This is one of my Till Valhalla project shirts, and so it's for disabled veterans and those that are surviving with PTSD. We pull your heat brake, and the normally one was going. one you gave me in and changing my mind. Then I print it leaks black substance where it screws. What is causing that? Ladder issue. If it's clogging, you definitely, so a PTFE lined hot end, like a standard Creality ender, your PTFE tube goes all the way down to the top of the nozzle. So there's two things. One, that becomes a consumable item. You're going to need to chop off like 30 centimeters and replace it, right? Just hopefully you got a little bit longer of a tube that you can just cut off, drop it down. It doesn't have to be 30 centimeters, but a good 10 or so millimeters, sorry, not centimeters, millimeters, probably about like that much, cut it off and run it back all the way down to the end of the tube or to the end of the nozzle. When you make that cut, it needs to be a very clean and 90-degree cut. It needs to be a very flat surface. Otherwise, you could get leakage, and you'll wind up, that could be what's coming out your screw is some extra filament that's sneaking around the PTFE. Okay, so those are two things you got to be cognizant of. Yeah, but the problem is the over time that PTFE portion will lose its lubricity, and so just flipping it around, yeah, you've put a more unused and non heated portion down at the bottom, but you move that section with a lower lubrosity level higher up in the heat sink or in the hot end and the heat sink portion, which could still cause you filament delivery problems. That's why it's better just to cut it and replace it. Okay. So yeah, I do want to kind of get going here because the sun is now moved kind of this way, which means it's hitting this side of the house more, which is going to heat this room up more. So I do want to try and get started on the build and keep going, but we can continue to talk to that. I'm just going to say I'm going to keep working on the build. Yeah, get some of the Capricorn XL. That'll help, especially with when you're printing the temps from the higher temps, like if you start doing PET G. So we are going to be working on the AMB drive motors, and we've got to start by doing a couple of heat sets, not a whole lot, just a few. You're here to hang and tease? Okay, I gotcha. I gotcha. Hey, Free Heathen. So that helmet that I kept having problems with printing in the silk chrome. So this is printed in the Polymaker Draft PLA, so it's black. So this is what that helmet was supposed to look like when it was fully done, but it kept failing about like right here. And of course it's printing at a, sitting up at an angle like that versus laid back. So it's sitting like this. So it missed a lot of this, but this is all one piece. And I'm getting a lot of ringing in this still, and I don't know why. I'm going to do a couple of things. I'm going to, one, drop the max acceleration figure in the, yeah, see there, you see a lot of the ringing up here on the ear antenna. I'm going to drop the overall acceleration in the printer config file for Clipper, so it can't go as fast on its acceleration pass. And I'm also going to probably get like a, because this is the Ender 5 that's turned to 0G Mercury 1, it's a really big footprint. So I'm going to have to get like a big rubber mat. So I'm probably going to have to get like a go get like a stall mat from Tractor Supply Company and just cut it down to the size of the tabletop and put it underneath all 3 printers that I put there. On that one, I want to say I ran 4 or 5 top and bottom layers and 10% adaptive cubic. Yeah, the top layers are fine. I'm just getting ringing, and the ringing is due to the acceleration. Yeah, and silk can be troublesome, and that's why I switched from silk. And it was the same exact, I was trying to figure out, is it an issue with the G code or is it an issue with the filament? And that's the same exact G code that failed twice with the silk chrome. And I ran it with the draft PLA and everything worked. So yeah. So we got this hot now. We're going to need a couple of these so that we can get these done and then get the hot thing cooling back off because I don't need any more heat sources up in this room. We need to put 2 heat set inserts in here, one here and one here. And this is going to be to support the cable chain piece. We are going to build this just like LDO says, with just a couple of changes. One of those changes will be a Chaotic Lab CNC tap, and the other being a set of titanium linear rail backers. And for those of you that may have seen that CNC Kitchen has come out with a heat set insert adapter for the TS100 soldering iron. I have one of those on order with some more of the CNC Kitchen heat set inserts. So I will be getting some of those, well, as soon as they process, ship, and travel here. I believe that's the only one I'm going to need for a while as far as heat sets goes. So put that back out of the way. Yeah, I really wanted to get a set of the adapters, and this kit does come with one of the heat set insert adapters, but it goes on a like a standard soldering iron, and I hate pulling that whole station up and down. So the last one I got, I actually gave to Evil Diesel, but and the one that came with this kit, like I said, it works fine, but it'd have to be on my other soldering iron, which is just kind of a pain in the butt to get out and takes up way too much space. So, okay, so we got a couple of our heat set inserts. It wants us to put some M5 nuts in these, in the bottom of the yeah, M5 nut will go right there. The last one, yeah, these will fall out, so I will add them as we go to build those idler brackets. I'll add them when I need to. And speaking of building those idler brackets, so we're going to start off, try and figure out which one we're going to be working with here. Big hole, little hole. So that's the one that we're going to be working with on this one. So we'll take this. We're going to start with an M5 by 40. And it's going to go into that slot anywhere. And then we're going to go shim, bearing, shim. We'll grab our precision spacers, aka shims. Oh yeah, Heathen has some good streams. He acts like he doesn't, but he's got good streams. And oops, let me close this up before I dump those everywhere and make a mess. And I need our motion set so that I can get our bearings. There's our flangey bearings. And we'll probably need a few other pieces out of this. These will probably happen today. Nope, that's the pre-deflanged one. Oh, it's in my hand. We'll need those. It's nozzle probe. This will be for our CW2. Okay. The rest of this we would need later on, so we'll put that down there. But we are going to need some of our 695 flange bearings. We need 2 to start with. Flange down for the first one. Flange up for the second one. Needs to make a nice little roller look. If it doesn't, then you did it wrong, and I did one wrong the other time, so be cognizant. Then it says to put the top on, the right direction, and these have printed keys on them, so a flange on one side and a keyhole slot in the other, so that they will lock into each other. Come on. So the parts kind of friction lock together. Okay. And then it's going to tell us that we want to slide our, let me figure out which one I've got here. Slide our bearing piece assembly in there, and then push the this bolt out with another bolt. I've yet to get that to actually happen and work right. So what I'm going to do is try and push that through. Take this, get it oriented in the right position, slide it on there, and get it lined up preferably without shifting my bearing stack and dropping that everywhere. I'm going to take this from the top, and with any luck, we're going to be able to get it down there and push it down in through the bearing stack. If we're not lucky, we're going to drop our bearing stack everywhere, like apparently I'm about ready to do. So this is where it gets kind of fiddly. Ah, dang it. And I kind of want to, yeah. There we go. So we're going to take all the parts out. We're going to kind of build this bearing stack in as we go. So we're going to screw it up a little bit. We're going to take one of our shims and place it in there. We'll take one of our shims and place it right in there. No? You little squirt. There we go. Shim in place. Turn our screw up a little bit. Grab one of the flange bearings with the flange down. And push it on there, move it around until it settles in. Get our screw brought up a little bit. Put the other flange with the flange up. And we'll have to massage that over into place, which we just did there. Screw our screw up a little bit. And then we're going to take our other shim, kind of push it in there. And we're going to screw down just a little bit to be able to get that in there. Push it back gently. Start bringing our screw up. And with any luck, it'll self-center and catch and we'll be good. If we're not lucky, then it won't, and we'll have to keep playing with it. I think we're good. Oh, the part that's always kind of a pain in the butt is trying to get the shims to line up. I can see the shim, and I can see that it's not centered, but I can also see that it's wanting to be a pickle and not center. And I think it's the actual. No, it doesn't look like there's a lip on the printed part. Ah, it's going to be a fun day. As we try and build bearing stacks. Within a part that you would hope would be self-sufficient for a bearing stack, but oh man, wow. Why are you being such pain? Hey, all right, guys. Sorry, this is like the clown show or something here, trying to get this bearing in or this shim in. Oh. Da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da. One of those things, it's like, oh, it's not going in, it's not going in. All of a sudden, it's just going to miraculously go in and be like the easiest thing. And nobody's going to know that you fiddled with it for like 40 minutes. We're going to be going to a hardened nozzle and a heat break soon. Yeah. And hey, Pete, how are you? Hope you're doing well. I am fighting some heat and some bearing stacks here. But I like how, it's real easy to build it. And then it's like, oh, well, just, slip this on and then run so here. It says, put a screw through. There's a screw. So then we go shim, flange bearing, shim. All right, there's our bearing stack. Put the other piece on top, which will lock in. And we'll go, hey, look, it's locked in. That is awesome. Then it shows you to put this piece on, but you can't get it fully on, right? And then it says to take this out, remove this, slide the tension arm in place, and then just put the bolt in from the top again. Well, it's like that. It's not how that works. Actually, you know what? I wonder, do I have a 5mm dowel pin? These are 3s. I've got a 5mm dowel pin that isn't, 300mm long. It still may be too big, but I wonder if I can sort of use this. Straight dowel pin. Which the answer would normally be yes. However, said dowel pin is also, alrighty, let me see. Nope, goes up. So go towards the back. Yeah, see, there's no easy way. And of course, this dowel pin's a little tight, so we can get everything back off the dowel pin now. So, great thought, didn't work. We'll just have to keep trying. Eventually, we'll get there. We will get there. But to me, like, doing the idlers are basically like the hardest part of this build. And it's just simply trying to get this one bearing stack to go right. Because like I said, you've got to have the bearing stack there. And then pull this out without shifting it and causing the bearing stack to just shoot everywhere. Or misalign in the process like it just did. So stay aligned. slide this piece over the top. Then put it down from the top to the bottom. Now, unfortunately, I didn't properly account for the offset edge here. I think everything is still properly aligned. We might get lucky here. And no, we did not, because it shifted and bounced around. So we're right back to trying to build it in place. Okay. I'm going to this the right way now. We're just going to um, sorry, folks, I'm not staying up with chat because I'm fighting with these. How's it going, Pete Savis? I hope you're doing well. So let me rephrase that. I hope you're doing better than I am fighting with these darn bearing stacks. Oh my goodness. Finally, we got the two shims and the bearing in place. Now we need to take our M5 nut Put it in the bottom there and then screw it on in. And all we're going to do is just screw it on in until we feel the tension change. And that's good because this part needs to be able to slide still. Might be a little bit too much. Needs to be able to slide relatively easily. And your bearing stack needs to be able to rotate. So it doesn't need to be ugga-dugged. So one down. Now the next one to go. We're just going to try and build that in place, and hopefully it'll be less frustrating now that we've got one done. An M3 washer and an M3 by 40. Those are 50s. These are 40s. And M5, M5. M3 washer. Just got home from work. How was work? My work's been fun. I had a meeting with a vendor first thing in the morning yesterday. Got back home from that meeting and was getting hit up with everybody asking me about the new guy that's joining the team. And I was like, what? What new guy joining the team? I have no idea what you're talking about. And it wound up being an email that I hadn't seen yet. And yeah, I've got a new guy that was joining my team. I was like, okay, rock on. And I'll say new guy, but not new to me. I know him, so that's all good there. We're going to run this screw through for days. And it's going to come out just a little bit because it's going to be able to screw into this orange piece a little bit before it starts moving the black piece. So I got it to where I was just seeing the screw come out. I pulled it tight. And now I'm just going to go ahead and tighten this the rest of the way until it just snugs up. Because once it starts moving the black piece like you're seeing now, we don't want it to be moving the black piece. So we want to unscrew it and get that black piece moved all the way back in till it's just flush up against the edge. And that's where we want to stop. Because this is what gives us our tension on the X and Y belts. So we just want it just snugged up enough that we'll get, that we're at the loosest of the travel that it can go, but we can pull it as far forward as possible after we get our belts run. So another M5 by 40. And on this one, okay, we're going to do the check. So we've got our M5 holes up at the top. We've got an M5 and M3 in the back here. We've got our idler up at the top, our screws at the top, and our screws at the top. So that idler is good. The next idler, we're going to start here. We would build our... yeah, that's right. We build our stack up. Why is that looking funny? Because it's showing me like putting it in here and then rotating it around. But that would be coming up from the bottom. Build the stack. Then take our other piece with our angled section at the bottom part. Slide that in there, which means our screw is going to come down from the top here. And we'll build our bearing stack in this orientation now. So start with a shim. We need a couple of our bearings. Flange slide down to the shim. Flange slide up. There you go. And then we'll need another shim. Put it at the top. Now I know every time I do that, I pull it off screen, but I need to be able to see it at eye level to try and get it centered as much as possible. Then I'm going to come down from the top with this and just kind of make the rounds to see if I can't get that centered. And then work the screw through. And there we go. So see, that one was easier once I fought with the other one for like 30 minutes to an hour. So we'll get our M5 nut there. We'll use our 4mm driver to just snug that up. Make sure we've got good movement in the slot there. Bearings rolling. And there we've got our second bearing stack with the shim at the top and the bottom. Now we need another one of our M3x40s and another M3 washer. Just got home from work. Yeah. Well, like I said, I just got notified of a new person joining the team, and really what it is they're reorging another large team and breaking it into smaller sections and spreading it around. And then yeah, I just gotta quell everyone's fears again, and then talk to that guy and make him realize that, hey, I'm not going to mess with you. You're going to continue to do what you were doing. You just got a new manager. That's it. So I've been doing the whole manager thing lately. So Heathen, are you still with us? And that should be good. We're going to do our check. And I went back, didn't I? So the B idler, we're going to look at from this direction. We've got this screw on the bottom, screw head at the top. We've got our two M5s, our M5, M3 holes in the back, and our roller is low. So the B roller is good. Well, and that's kind of what's going on right now is everybody's afraid of another round of cuts coming, and I don't even have any information to tell them, but they're all freaking out and asking me, and it's like I've got nothing to tell you. So we're going to start off with the one that we put the two heat set inserts in that has this big cutout here, and we're going to go there and there. So it's the corner, skip a hole, and then there, because this is an M3 that's countersunk. So you got your two M5x30s there. You're going to hold that, flip it over, and then you can set it down on the table. You work in retail for GameStop, and I work for Cisco Systems, the networking company. And I do cybersecurity for the engineering IT group, which is the group that um, focuses on the software development tool chain for our product lines. Okay, so here we're going to start with shims. So we're going to put a shim on each one of these. Good gracious, these shims are... We're going to start with a shim on each one. And each one of these is going to get a bearing stack. So flange side down on both of them. Flange side up on both of them. And then another shim on each of them. Okay. Then the second one will get a second bearing stack. So we start off same thing, shim. So you'll have two shims between these bearing stacks. And then flange down, flange up, and another shim. And then we'll take the other piece and put it right down on top of it. Line things up and just we'd squish it down. And before I tighten these, I just want to look and make sure that I've actually got two full roller shim stacks there and I didn't get anything in the wrong orientation. So once again, squish all your parts together. They're keyed to line up. And then these two M5 button head cap screws are going into plastic. So screw them down, but don't swing for the streets and ugga-dugga to your heart's content here, or you'll have problems. So you're just going to take them and screw them down until you feel the resistance change. Okay. So once again, remember I just put one finger up there, light pressure, and then start turning. And it's going to screw itself in. And then when I feel that resistance change, that's where I know that I've screwed in enough. My bearings still have movement, but I'm not compressing them to the point where my bearings won't move. Okay, and so that's one motor piece done. Set that to the side, and it does say don't over tighten. You are threading directly into plastic. I'm going to go ahead and we'll go ahead and do the motor. So this is going to be the A drive. This is our A drive. This will be what'll wind up being our A drive motor. We're going to need our jig. We're going to need one of our GT2 20-tooth pulleys. And we're going to need the set screws. You just bought a Cisco router for your server? Nice. Now, is that for the house or for work? But yeah, everybody feels like they're constantly in fear of getting cut. And we know that there's going to be cuts coming this quarter because they're the leftovers that were announced in Q2 of last year. So we just know they're coming. We just don't know how bad and who winds up getting impacted, though. I have a feeling that my team in particular won't be, but You always think you're safe until you're not, you know. So I just found my flat and lined it up with one of the sides here. And we're going to be looking for the A motor, and that's the one we're going to use. So the fat part goes down on this one. So I'm going to just line this up. Here's my flat. I'm going to line this up in the gap. Start sliding this down on my motor shaft until the jig bottoms out, and that's where I need to tighten it up against my flat. Good gracious, this Loctite is pretty substantial. And of course, it's Loctite that's already been put on and dried, so it's harder to kind of get through the threads on. So once again, I'm going to line it up with the flat, get the printed piece in the gap of my pulley, slide it down till it bottoms out on the motor body, and then tighten that last, hopefully, turn or two up against the flat. There we go, finally. Get it nice and tight, and then we'll do the other side. Okay, nice. Open source PF Sense for the firewall. That's nice. Yeah, yeah, I hear you. So on our mount here, the little side flange piece will be to the right, our opening will be to the left, and that's the direction that our motor wires are going to come out. So we'll set it down on our motor and line it up just like that, with the wires coming out towards the opening slot here. We're going to use M3 by 30 socket head cap screws. Oh, FreeNAS, yeah, I've done the whole FreeNAS thing in the past, and you know, it works great, but I've gotten out of just running my own servers, my own file servers and all that stuff. I don't know, I just gotten out of it over the years, but I feel you. I used to do all that good stuff. Used to run websites for nonprofits that I worked with and stuff. So, hey, Comfortably Dumb, how are you doing? Yeah, and they don't have a lot of Loctite on them, but it was like pre-applied, I'll say, quote unquote, at the factory, and it's very dry. Where if I use my stick here, it's, you know, it's still got some moisture to it. It hasn't dried out, and so it goes into the threads a lot easier. When you get that stuff that's pre-applied, it's basically hardened onto the threads, and so you're basically like cutting the thread through the Loctite. And once again, you're making these snug, but you're not ugga-dugging them. Once again, if your righty-tighty becomes lefty-loosey, you went too far. If you're righty-tighty and you crack, you know, go ahead and turn it back a quarter turn and then take everything out and reprint. So what we're going to look at, and this took me the longest while to figure out when it says check your work. is we just installed it looking at it like this. Turn it around, and this is how you're checking your work. You've got your 2 bearing stacks on the left side, and then your pulley on the motor needs to line up with the pulley over here. So as long as those two line up, which, yep, they do, then you built your A motor correctly. So we'll take our A motor and set that aside right there. Now we're going to basically do the same thing for the B motor. We're going to pop our B motor top off, and we're going to put 2 of our M5x30 button head cap screws in there in this back corner. I probably should have reamed these holes out. And then the third one there. Okay. Then we're going to flip it over and we're going to build our bearing stacks. So now you see that they've changed the orientation of that part. So change the orientation where your long edge is here and your little short flange with the cutout is on the left. And we're going to start building our bearing stacks. So we need a shim on each side. We'll need some more of our flange bearings. So flange down, flange up, flange down, flange up, another shim, and then over here on our left side, we're going to start with another one. So we do another shim, so that's a double shim, and then flange down and flange up, another shim. Now we're going to take our other part, flip it over, line it up, and go ahead and kind of squish it together, maybe. Or I said, I think I need to deburr my M5 holes there a bit. We'll push it through and line it up. And once again, before we go and screw these on, we want to make sure that we actually have roller stacks and that we didn't get one of our roller bearings in the wrong orientation, because then we'd have to take it apart anyhow. So anytime you're threading into a part, you don't want to keep pulling that screw out and putting it in. Pull it out, put it in, because you just wear those threads out. So we're going to use our 3mm driver, and once again, we're just going to go until we feel the tension change, and we've set that head of that bolt right up against the printed part. Make sure that all of our bearings still roll, which they do, and we're good there. Now we're going to build our other motor. And once again, we're going to need our other GT2 20-tooth pulley. And a couple more of these set screws. Oh, definitely mod light. I mean, I figured as much. If you were running servers, normally you're running servers and people are paying you to keep the servers up. And yeah, I got that. I mean, if I was getting paid for it, that would be cool. But I'll just say those years of my life, I think, are kind of done. As far as running servers and dealing with all of that stuff. Oof. Good gracious. Yeah, so I don't know if you can tell. Come on, you can do it. There we go. Like, see how much Loctite's on those threads? And it just makes it so much harder to get the darn things in there. If I could, I guess I probably could have like cleaned it off with some alcohol or something and then just put new thread locker on it. But okay, so I need to find my flat here. And this one's going to be the B drive. So I look for the B side, which is this lower one over here. And it's going to be facing downward. So get that in my groove, slide it on the shaft, lining up with the flat. Bring this down until it bottoms out. And then tighten up against the flat. And go find that other one and tighten it up against the rounded side. Been running server since '02. Wow. I have built the V0. That was the first Voron that I ever built. And it's sitting right over here. And it's actually printed most of the parts for the 2.4 and the 0G, and anything that was too big that couldn't go on it. I have a Wham Bam pop-up tent that got put on the Ender 3 over here. And I printed the longer like skirt parts and stuff like that on that printer. So now that we have that, we'll throw our jig in there. And we're going to take our you love to build one. The software really isn't that hard because they've got there's good basic files for the printer config, and it's really easy if you run Mainsail. You can actually install the Mainsail OS directly on your Raspberry Pi, so you don't have to build Clipper or anything like that. All you do is run Mainsail OS and install it. And we'll get there in a few streams, and you'll see how easy it can actually be to do that software install. So, all right, so in this case, we've got the motor here. My wires are facing the camera, right? Which is how it's showing us. And we want the front part with the Voron logo and that gap. And that's going to go straight down there. So once again, the long side is going in the direction of the wires. We're just going to set it down there and kind of push it on around the flange of the motor. And then we're going to need our M3 by 30 screws. We're going to need 3 of them. And we'll go 1, 2, 3. And we'll just tighten those down. Yeah, when you do the install with Mainsail and you're using a Raspberry Pi, it becomes a lot easier. If you're using something other than a Raspberry Pi, whether it's a Big Tree Tech CB1 module, either on one of their Manta line of boards or on their Pi 4 sled, it's a little bit different because you can't install Octoprint directly on it. Or I'm sorry, not Octoprint, but the Raspberry Pi image directly on it. So you have a little bit more to fiddle around with there, but not a lot. It really isn't that hard. What's going on? Line up or not? Yeah. Right, there we go. Just wasn't lining up on the hole. I had it slightly, ever so slightly twisted. Yeah, comfortably done. It's pretty easy, and the Voron documentation is pretty darn good. Okay, so that motor's installed. And then once again, the next thing we're going to do is check. So we got our N3x30s on. We're going to turn it to the back and we're going to look. So in this case, our two bearings are on the right side. We've got a bearing on the lower edge and it should line up with that pulley. And yes, it does. So we're good there. And that's our B side, right? So B side, A side. Now, next up is the gantry. This is where we start getting into fun times. Doing linear rail installs and stuff like that. I think pretty sure we do well that one jumped pretty. I'm pretty sure they use the triple hole cable chains. I will have to look, and you know what? We'll hold off on installing this until I get a chance to look. So we'll have to come back to that one later. So we're going to use the smallest extrusion that we have left. I've got them all butted up right against the edge here. So we're going to use the smallest one. And we're going to put 4 M5 T-nuts at the top and 4 at the bottom, right? So our M5 T-nut. And they're oriented with the holes facing the outer edge. It'd be nice. You're not going to be nice. Okay. Yeah. Let me see if you can see the difference here. This one's fully in. This one's not fully in yet. That's why I'm trying to crank on it. Is I'm pushing down on the spring on the back side here and then trying to use this to lever it and get it to fully pop into the bracket. Because if I do, then it slides in there easier. If I don't, so see how easy this one is to slide? This one isn't sliding, and that's because it's not fully there, so it's got too much tension on it. You might be able to see at the end there if it will focus. See how just the end, this side right here where my thumb is still compressed down a little bit. So that's what I'm trying to do, is just get that kind of moved over. Don't know why it's being such a pill. Okay, there we go. That got it. Same thing over on this end. And you'll be able to just feel it when it pops. Hey, Everything Plus Ultra, how are you doing? All right, my light. Enjoy, have fun. Don't get too frustrated with it. And if you do, just walk away. So we got the two in one side. We're going to go to the opposite side and put two more in. I don't know how much of this might be the anodizing process or if they're just super tight tolerance rails. But there's lamping. Oh, thanks, bud. Okay, we're there. And we're going to slide the A and B motors on, and we're going to install M5 by 10 T-nuts in these. So we'll get the first edge lined up, and we'll grab an M5 by 10, 2mm driver. And I'm not going to crank them all the way down. I'm going to leave them just a tad bit loose for a moment. And M5 by 10. Hey, Pez Liz, how are you doing today? About to heat set some things? Awesome. Yeah, we did a few earlier, but tried to get them installed and back and get the soldering iron back off as quickly as possible. Like I said, dealing with the with not having the AC working upstairs is kind of a pain in the butt. So we're going to push this in. We're going to line up the first one. In 5 by 10. Line up the second one. Another M5 by 10. Flip it over and do it again. It looks like these two might actually be lined up perfectly. And it's interestingly enough, this in a nutshell is kind of our color scheme. So we've got the purple rail, the orange primary parts, and then the motors make the black accent pieces, along with the blackened screws. So here we have our A side, B side. And now we're going to get our Y gantries going. We'll set that over there out of the way for the time being. And 5 spacers put away. The bearings away. Now we're going to need our 2 longer ones that we have left here. These will be for our Y-axis gantries. Yeah, don't put them there. One on each side. And we're going to line them up with for our screws. But before we do that, we still need to lubricate our Y and X rails. So let's go ahead and work on that real fast before we get too far down the road here. So our Y rails are MGN 9. And then our X rail will wind up being the MGN 12. Ooh, excuse me. Climate controlled. No, not really. So what I've got is all the printers up here are turned off, and I have a fan trying to blow the air, the hot air out of here downstairs with my AC actually dropped down to 73 downstairs, but it's still 80 degrees up here. So like I said, we're going to go until I'm can't. So we're going to kind of do, we're going to go back and do the way we've done in the past, where we just take the rail half off and pack our bearings that way. And then we'll come back and we'll give these a good cleaning with isopropyl before we install them. So what I'm doing is I'm pulling the rail about halfway off of the carriage, and we're going to use our Mobilux EP2, and we're going to work and pack these bearings. Now, some people would be like, oh, you need to flush the bearings, you need to do this, you need to do that. I have not run into any issues. Now, if it's the cheapest linear rail I could get off AliExpress, yes, I have actually broken those down completely and like literally pulled the balls out and cleaned and flushed them and soaked them in alcohol, and then cleaned the balls as well, packed it with grease, and then repacked the balls. So yeah, I was actually comfortably dumb. My Voron was, it's been, my Vorons were going all day long today. My 2.4 actually shut down, and the error was a thermal overheating of the stepper driver. And Oh, with a Q-tip, you didn't have a syringe? Yeah, well, I've actually just taken it, put it on my finger, and shoved it in. That didn't sound right. Um, so I've literally taken the super lube tube that I used for doing the linear rod bearings, and I'll just squirt some of the super lube out and grab it with my finger and then shove it into the bearing races. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to squish this in with my finger and get as much as I can squished into that bearing race. Then we'll gently move this back onto the rail fully. There will be some extra on the edge. Just grab that with your finger for the next round. And then you're going to move this back and forward. And what this is going to do is start getting that grease into the bearing race itself. And then we'll come back and we'll do it again. So pull it about halfway off. And do it again. Squirt some grease on the balls and just press it in. Slowly move it forward. And you've got enough grease there now. If you did have a ball come out, it will be in that grease and it's not going to like shoot across the table or anything like that. So once again, you're just going to run the carriage up and down the linear rail to work that grease that we just put in all the way through the races. And you can do this 2 or 3 times, however much you want to feel like you're there. I don't know on the, well, when it stops going in or it just keeps, when the ball bearing lubricant starts squirting back out into the rail guide, then that means it's fully packed and you're wasting time to add any more. So I'll take this little bit and go ahead and pack it in on the one side. My bot raid. Gotcha. So my bot finished. How far did he get, zombie? Yeah, you caught me lubing up my balls and rails. How far did my bot get tonight? Oh yeah, that series where he's going to work the VZ bot with Steve Builds. I'm looking forward to that one as well. And I like the format they're going to do, where it's Modbot's or regular stream time and Steve's regular stream time, and they're just going to join in with each other. I think that ought to be a good format. Yep, we're doing the lube job. Yeah, I'm wearing at least one glove. The other hand's getting a little sticky, but it's not from the EP2 grease. It's the whatever shipping oil gunk that's on the rails. Yeah, I was watching guys on YouTube that were building. They're called print NC CNCs, and they use like 2x3 and 2x4 by like 1/8 inch thick walled tube steel, right, for the gantries. And their linear rails are, what were they, HGE 20s, I believe they were. I mean, these things were some chunky rails. And yeah, they had proper Zerk fittings on there. You actually greased them with a grease gun. Yeah, I want to build a CNC. I've got a Shapeoko 3, but I'd really like to build one of my own one day. Though my wife would probably get all kinds of mad at me for that, but well, I've survived this long with her ire. All right, what I'm going to do is just try and get the bulk of that off. And I'll come back in with some isopropyl and clean these rails. To get whatever shipping goop off of them. Oh yeah, well, and that's why I can do aluminum on my Shapeoko supposedly, but I would like to like get a a smaller, more rigid machine that I could do aluminum parts on and be able to custom machine my own maybe parts for a printer build or something. So I'm just going to slide these all the way down to the end and then wipe these rails down with the alcohol. Stay down there. Now there is a note on these or in the LDO that says do not put a screw in the end bolts on these, and I know why. I'll show you a little bit later. So I will put these caps back in the end on these rails. And when I'm doing these sides, I'm not putting my finger down in the channel because that's what we just lubed up with the ball bearings. I'm just trying to lubricate, or not lubricate, but I'm just trying to clean the actual like steel running surfaces of the rails and get that shipping oil off of them. On the gantry, you can still put it in the second hole, but on the Y's, you don't want to. Okay, so we've got those done. That away. This way. Didn't have anything else we need to lubricate on this build. Whoop. Actually, we will, but that's when we hit the extruder that will do that. Almost took my fan out and myself at the same time. All right. Linear rails are done. We'll have those, one on each of those. Scoot that to the side. Get this out of the way as well. Okay, so we're back up here. M3 T-nuts. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We're going to need like 8 of them. Just going to get 4 set in each way. You said Bob's building one. Is he actually building a print CNC, or which one is he building? Um, you would get first dibs on the second run because the first run would be for myself. Print CNC. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my rail, kind of lay it next to here. I'll worry about centering it in a little bit. And then I'll start getting my T-nuts lined up. Once again, shooting for every other hole. We'll set it up there, and we're going to be doing M3 by 8s. Just going to get these loosely started. Bob would be build over bot, I believe, is what everybody refers to as Bob. I'm just trying to get them so that they're below the surface, so if I need to, I can move the rail around, or the carriage. Okay, there we go. Should be able to get a little bit of movement still out of this. And because we want them to be at 25 millimeters and we want them to both be at the 25 millimeters, we'll set up our depth gauge on our calipers. And we're at 25.01, but that's going to be good enough. And so we'll use our depth gauge. I'm just going to move it down here so I can get the edge off the table. And we're going to put the depth gauge where the edge is right up against the aluminum extrusion. And we're just going to push our rail until it touches the depth gauge. There we go. Now we're going to need our MGN9 block still. Alignment, we got 25 millimeters, our alignment blocks, and we're going to start in the middle. Work our way out. First pass is just snugging them down. Second pass is going to be, we'll say, for all the marbles. So let's tighten these up. One rail done. Now we'll do the other one. Same thing, just rinse and repeat. Oh, hey, Royal Nomi, how are you doing? Sorry I didn't see you sneak in here. I'm working with my head down again. Hope your day is going well, that you're feeling well. Okay, so we've got our 8 T-nuts in there. Now what we're going to do is set our rail up here, and we'll start getting these slid into place on where they'll need to be. And drop in our M3x8 nut. Bob from California, I assume. Once again, how you doing, Nomi? Hope you're doing good. What are these mountains you're talking about? Big Bear? Nice. Okay, so now that they are just, we'll say, a little bit uh, uh, tightened down, I'm going to move my depth gauge up here and move the rail over to the depth gauge so I can set my 25 millimeter gap. We'll throw our guides on there that will, or alignment blocks that will align the rail and center it on the extrusion. And then we'll go through and do our first snug. And then we'll come down with the Ugga Duggas. Okay. We'll go ahead and unlock that, put it down, zero it out, shut it off, and put it away for the moment. We'll probably need it again here soon, but so we've got them both with the 25 millimeter gap. Now it wants us to flip these over and put in 4 M5 T-nuts on the bottom, on the opposite of the rails. Ski in the morning, swim in the afternoon. Yep. Yeah, I normally make the comment, if you guys keep talking about mountains, go to Colorado and play with one of the 14ers. Because they talk about the mountains out here in North Carolina. I'm like, your mountains are like 3,000 feet. That's half of the base elevation at Colorado Springs. But yeah, ski in the morning, and when you're talking ski, you're talking like snow skiing, not water skiing. Okay, so we got our 4 sets of T-nuts in. And then we're going to flip them back over to the rail side. And we're going to do M3, M5 on both sides. So M3 towards the linear rail. That's why we didn't put an M3 T-nut at the bottom here, because then you wouldn't be able to get the other one in. I've encountered that dilemma and had to live through it. So there's the M3. Three. And 5. And M5. Yep, them's hills, not mountains. I loved it down in Florida. They had a place called Mount Dora, and I'm like, okay, it may be a mountain for Florida, but yeah, about the only place it would be considered a mountain. Okay, so we've got those put in place. Now we're going to start the y-axis. We're going to grab this one, put it back over here. We're going to grab this one, and we're going to take our one with the M5 holes at the top. Whoops. There we go. So our M5 holes are at the top. Our screw is at the upper side. So this is the A side, and it's going to get slid on with the rail ups, with the linear rail facing down. It will get slid on just like this. Okay. And you're going to push it up all the way against the linear rail. It needs to be flush. Give me 1 second here to look at this. We're going to go with the assumption that 25 millimeters goes towards the front. And yep, that's pretty darn flush. And we're going to, whoops. grab one of our other pieces. I hadn't seen. I think that was it right there. So we need one of our belt pieces. And there will be some of these that have the M5 and the M3. And some of them that will have all the M5s. So we're going to take one that has the two M5s. And we're looking at these pieces right here. They've got this little groove in them for the belt. And that groove is going to go down, and there's an edge here that's also got a little groove in it. That goes towards the outside of the rail. Okay? And we're going to set this in place with M5 by 16 button head cap screws. So, two M5 by 16s. I helped line up my M5 T-nuts first. Oops. Black part, M5 by 16. Okay. Make sure it's flush, which we are. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. We're going to take this rail, we're going to rotate it over, and we're going to take our other side, slide it on, and then we'll line up our M5 T-nuts. Grab another one of our belt clamps, making sure that the downward groove is, well, the groove is facing down, and then the edge groove is facing towards the outside. We'll need two more of the M5 by 16 button head cap screws. That'll be a mountain. When I moved out here and everybody's talking about the mountains, the mountains, the mountains, and I'm like, no, the Blue Ridge Mountains aren't mountains compared to, everything over there in Colorado and dealing with Continental Divide and stuff like that. Okay, so I did screw those down, but I didn't like do any ugga duggas because we will have to remove them when we go to put the belts in. And then we're going to go ahead and mount that into our back gantry piece here. So that means I'm going to need to move this to the side. Out of the way. Leave our extra, not our extras, but all of our other belt pathways there. We'll take this and set it in. This side and set it in. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to have to line up the end nice and flush. We need our M5s at the back. We're going to make sure our M5 T-nuts are lined up. And we're going to use our plates again with more M5 by 16 bolts. Come on, you can do it. The thing is, before the groove is facing down and the groove in the side is facing out. And all we're doing right now is looking for alignment. So I'm making sure that it's flush with my fingers right here in the back. And then I'm just lightly tightening them because, like I said, we're going to have to loosen everything up a little bit later to do some other stuff. And note the notch orientation. And I think I'm missing one of those pieces. Either that or it was, nope, it was just covered up and I didn't grab it. That's all it was. It was just hiding from me. Hey, Westry, how you doing? Oh, no worries. No worries. Hope the meeting went well, though. So we are putting our gantry together. So we put our A and B motors together and our A and B idlers together, which, let me tell you how much fun that is. Not. And then we're getting ready to put together the Y rails on our gantry system here. So I need to line up my T-nuts. And you also missed out on me lubing rails and well, lubing my balls and rails. It's always a fun part of any stream. I'm getting this nice and tightened down, but I'm also looking to make sure that I'm straight and flush at the back edge here. And once again, I'm just snugging these. I'm not like cranking down on them because this is where our belts are going to go. And we will have to loosen those up to put our belts in a little bit. So now it's going to want us to work on our gantry system. But what I'm going to do while we're like this is I've got a West 3D set of titanium gantry backers. So I'm going to go ahead and put the Y-axis gantry backers on while we're in this position here. So balls and rails and lube. Yep. All kinds of fun happened while you were gone, Westry. And so what I always do, and I'm not sure if it's the right way or not, but Voron logos always towards the front of the gantry, and the little extra screw holes here are always on the right side because that's where your cable chains would be. So I need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 M3. And I've got plenty more of these, so I'm just going to go ahead and use these for now and swap them out, or not swap them out, but add more later for my own stash when I need to. This is not a requirement, but it does just strengthen the rails, and it keeps the rails themselves from bowing due to the dissimilar metallurgical properties between the steel linear rails and the aluminum extrusions. So basically, we're just going to provide some additional rigidity. And a little bit of bling. So as standard, I'm just going to line this up, move my T-nuts into position. And then just slide that over. And wait, what's twos or 1.5? Twos. And then they give you the screws as well. So once again, these are titanium backer plates, and the screws are titanium as well. And they're countersunk screws, but I have noticed that they do not give you enough screws to put one in each hole. So normally on one of these, I will substitute out some standard stainless steel screws. Just kind of go like titanium, stainless steel, titanium, stainless steel. And just like normal, I'm just getting these started so I can still wiggle everything around to line it up. We've got one of these screws that's slightly off, so once I get all the others in, I'll just move the whole rail just a tad bit to get that lined up. Western One, did you go riding this morning? I think I saw a tweet, but I can't remember if it was a today tweet or a yesterday tweet. Yeah, that one's just going to be a pain. So I'm just trying to make sure I've got a good gap on front to back, side to side. And then I'm going to start in the middle and snug it down, working my way from the middle to the ends, because once again, I don't want to introduce a bow in this process. And I had at least one of these on one of the other machines that actually was bowed kind of like this. So you definitely wanted to start in the center when you tightened everything down. Otherwise, if you start in the ends, you would inflict the bow on your extrusion. This one side done. Now we'll do the other side. And set a rail up here so that we can try and get everything lined up. And put some screws in it. The Westery, did you go riding today? And if so, how's the black doing? Hopefully still doing good. How's my little girl Mia doing healing? Okay, so it was storming there and your leg, and that's from the wasp thing that you got the other day? Feel a little nervous? Okay. You're a little nervous because of your leg? And I'm just going to snug it down front to back, or actually middle to ends. And we'll come back and we'll give it a final ugga-dugga. Okay, so we got our backers on there. These other 4 screws will go in the last backer, which will go on the back of the gantry once we get there, which will be a little bit soon here. So we'll put those back in there. Put them with the other one. And we'll go back to our regularly scheduled TV show. Whoops. So we're looking like this. We need 3 M5 nuts on each one. These are going to have to be pulled. Oh, that one went in a little bit easier. Oh, we'll have to pull out through. Right, there we go. So, M5 nuts in. Black one stung the tar out of you. Well, that sucks. All right, now we're going to start with the other piece and the piece that has the wire notch in it. And we're going to take an M5 by 40 and it's going to go through this front, I'll say left or front right hole here. So when you flip it over, it's this hole in the raised area. And we're going to build a bearing stack. So we need our M5 precision shims again. Or excuse me, spacers. One there. Good old flange bearings. Flange down. Flange up. Another spacer. And then we're going to take this piece and put it on top where they line up. Okay, so it'll be this hole right here that will line up with that screw that we just put in. Then it tells us to flip it over. So just kind of hold it together, flip it over. And we're going to add 2 more M5 by 40 screws. We're going to go there and there. Okay. And one more spot. We're going to need a tooth idler. Go ahead and get the other one out there. And this is yet another M5 by 40 screw. And that's going to go in this space here. So we're just going to set our tooth idler in there. Take our M5 by 40 right through the top of that tooth idler and into the hole. Now you'll notice, and this threw me for the biggest loop, that's just a straight hole. That's a through hole for that head. So you will be tightening this down so that the head is going directly against the bearing. Okay, so that's something to be cognizant of. And it says here, do not over tighten. The bolt is used to position the idler and is screwed directly into plastic for this front tooth idler piece. So it still needs to spin freely. So once again, you don't ugga-dugga down on it. We'll need our 4mm for this one. And I'm going to start by tightening these first 3 down here because these are the ones that are tightening up against the M5 bolts that we put in the bottom. Might have to reach around and put a little bit of pressure on there so it starts biting into that bolt. And once again, just until you feel it start to pinch and get a little bit tighter because you want to keep movement in your pulleys. Same thing here. You're just going to go down. You're going to be threading into plastic. But as soon as it hits that pulley and you feel the tension change, stop. And if your pulley is not rotating, which it's kind of tight, back it off an 1/8 or a quarter turn and make sure that your pulley is rotating nice. And there you go. So that one's done. And we'll work on the other side now. So we're going to take the other top piece, and this gets fun because where it's telling you to put the first one for this roller bearing is right here where that through hole is for the head. And what I'm talking about is that bolt can go up and through there. It's a little bit tight on this one. I think I had some elephant's foot, but I'm just going to take it and push it down in there. And then we're going to do our bearing stacks. So a shim, our remaining 2 flange bearings. So flange side down, flange side up, and another one of our spacers. Put the garbage away. And we're going to take this piece and it's going to align on there. It's going to go into this hole, so you're just trying to get that lined up. And we will be able to flip this over. I'm going to go ahead and see if I can't catch that bolt. Okay, I did. We're going to grab a couple of M5 by 40s, and they're going to go down and lock the other 2 positions in. You may have to hold it up like this just so that bolt or the nut doesn't slide too far down. Because if it's up against the edge of the bolt, it will catch. So make sure that everything is rotating nicely. Everything's nice and snug, which it is. Now we're going to take our other tooth idler and another M5 by 40. And this one's going to go down through this hole right here, which does have a catch point to it. So by a catch point, I mean a recessed hole for it. So we'll be able to feel when it bottoms out against the hole, and we won't go any further because we can bend this piece down and make it too snug. You still have good movement there. And in essence, what you really want is for all of these to be at least level with the surface. Nothing should be sitting proud of the surface so that it would sit flat on the tabletop. We did those. Now it's going to tell me to build the x-axis. Let's kind of scoot that to the side. We'll get the rest of these put up before we make a mess. And of course, we only have one extrusion left, so that's going to be our X. Tells us we're going to use 6. I'm just going to double check that. I'm going to be using 8, not 6. This must be based off of a 250. Flip that around so the LDO's in the right direction. And while I'm at it, let me take a quick gander over here. It's 104. Okay, so my next note isn't for another couple of pages, so we're good to keep going. Okay. Then we'll take our MGN rail, set it up here, and we'll just line everything up. Doesn't matter right now if it's off center. We'll fix the, we'll center it in another step. Okay. Loosen up. And we're going to use our M3 by 8s on here. Not locking any of these in. We're just getting them below the surface of the rail to start with so that when we can figure out how to get them lined up when the time comes. Uh-oh, what we got? Hey, Chris, how's it going? Thank you for resubbing for a total of 5 months. Thanks, man. How's it going? I'm like sitting here in the sweat box. It's have we been able to drop the temperature any? Nope, we're sitting here at 80 degrees and it's a sad day because, well, come on, really? There we go. It's a sad day because everything's quiet. Everything's off. The What I've been able to determine is I think when we had the power outage the other day when the storms hit, it took out the, I'm calling it an airflow gate or an air gate on the duct from the, so that my AC isn't two separate AC units. I've got one AC unit that feeds a circuit for the entire downstairs and one circuit for this room. So this room's on a separate thermostat because it's up above the garage. And that wastegate, or not wastegate, but that airflow gate has no lights on it, and it's stuck in a ever so partially open, like maybe 10%. And so I'm getting no airflow even when the AC kicks on. So I've got to call in to the AC folks to come out and take a look at it because I'm not sure if it's not getting power there in that fried or if it's something where this thermostat's not sending a signal correct or something. I don't know. Well, the house is 3 years old, so I don't want to bust the warranty on the AC. You know, so that's the big thing. So I need a 15 millimeter gap from one side. So let's work up 15 millimeters on our depth gauge. Yeah, dude, you're lucky I got up and looked at it to start with because it's hella hot today. It's not triple digits, but if it's 90 something outside, it may be triple digits up in the attic. $15.1 is good enough for me. Dang, that's actually, I was right there. Hey, my Mark 1 eyeball worked. Yeah, exactly. I've got a warranty. The house is 3 years old. Everything's still under warranty. So somebody's going to come out and fix it. So we've got our 15 millimeters. I do need to grab my other, when I say my other jigs. Because we had our one for the MGN 9 rails Now we need the ones for the MGN12 because this is an MGN12. So this will be our alignment jig. We've got our side to side centered. Now we're going to center the rail on the extrusion, and we will start tightening them down. And standard procedure, I'm just going to snug it up. And then we'll come back and do a final tighten. Yep. Well, and that's what happened is I literally, the Voron 2.4 stopped about 80% into a print and threw a TMC overheat error. And that's what got me looking. I was like, what is going on? And then I realized I was thinking I was hot because I was drinking coffee that was like real hot. And I went over and looked and it was like 80 degrees. And I was like, oh no. And that's when I started running around trying to figure out what was going on. And yeah, bad day ensued after that. But I know, I checked the circuit breaker. The circuit breaker is working. About that time, I was going to go out and check and make sure the outside compressor was working, and it kicked on. So I was like, okay, well, that's working. And then that's what prompted me to go upstairs, and I was like, ugh. Okay, then it's going to want us to mount this. But before I do that, I'm going to take this and flip it over because it really should be on the back side, not on the top side. And we're going to put another backer plate on this. I know the other two I've actually got on the top part of the rail. That's because I was too lazy to try and, well, I was just too lazy to take all the panels off. But yep. All right, and I am going to need a couple of more small M3 countersunk screws out of my stash over here. Because if you're building death racers, you're going to have a stash of M3 countersunk, aka flathead screws. Yeah, I don't know why. All three of the kits I got from West 3D, it comes with like less screws than you need. Either that or I got three of the 300 millimeter size that had screws for a 250 size. But one, two, three. All right, so there's going to be 8 here. These are lined up. And same as before, I'm just going to get these loosely on there, and then we'll work on centering it overall on the rail. And I flipped it around so that the Voron logo is on the left side and these extra holes are on the right side. I'm not sure why they're like that, but I don't know. I don't know what the extra holes are for. So one there loose. I'm going to go into two center ones. What is going on with that one? Ah, one of these is giving me issues, and I just don't know if it's a thread issue or it's having an issue threading in. Hmm. I've got these little packs here of M3 countersunk. I have little packs of M3 button head screws. I just suggest you guys, if you're going to be building printers, or if you want to do like a death racer or anything like that, you might want to just go ahead and, when you see one with a decent price, go get one of the assortments of the uh, button head and the flatheads. They're not that expensive. Um, but they do give you a pretty darn good assortment. That one's just going to cross thread. I'm going to leave that one out. We're just going to make sure that this is pretty much centered. By centered, I mean, eyeballed, mark one, centered. I'm not going to get like too crazy here with Let's work our way from the center out. And once again, this will help keep the aluminum extrusion from bowing with the difference in heat temp and heat soak between the aluminum and the steel of the linear rail. Okay. We got the backers on. Now it wants us to be rail facing us. We need two M5 by 2, or excuse me, two M5 T-nuts on each side. Okay. And then one on the underside. Those are in good. And then with our rail facing us, we will slide these on with the bottom portions sitting flat, basically. So the rail sitting to the back side with the front tooth idlers being towards the front. We'll just need to line up our M5 nuts. Okay, and use the black M5 washers instead of, okay, use the black ones because they'll look nicer. Gotcha. M5 by 10 on the left side here. So we'll grab two of our M5 by 10 button head cap screws. It says to leave them slightly loose. So once again, I'm just going to make sure that they're fully seating. And I'll back them off a bit so that they're plenty loose. I just want to make sure that they are going all the way through and engaging the T-nuts before I back them off. So those are there. And then we need to put this side on with M5 by 16s and our cable chain. What I'm going to do is actually use M5 by 10s for right now because I need to double check the cable chains. I believe they use the 3, but I need to make sure. Well, in fact, let me double check here real fast with their. Give me 1 second to check the printed part. Uh, yep, it's the 2-hole version, and I tossed the 2-hole version because I had layer or bed adhesion issues and it warped up. So I'm going to have to reprint this. So for now, to keep the build going, I'm just going to use the M5x10s, and we will put the cable chain back on here a little bit later. And I might be able to get that single piece printed tonight just because it's not going to be a long print and it should be able to run it. All right, so we're good there. Get those out of the way. Now from the bottom, so I'm going to just take this and flip it over. I'm going to need to line up my M5 nuts. Okay, and we're going to go with M5x30 button head screws and our black washers because they'll look nicer for whatever reason. And once again, we're going to put this in here and we're going to leave it. We'll screw them in, but we're going to leave them loose. Kind of get them down there and then back them off a turn or two. Okay, next up, move back to the M14 to 160 will be the next one. We need to check our work. So we're going to look at it from the bottom. We've got roller high, tooth low, the other side tooth high, and roller low. And once again, this will be where we put our cable chain, but we'll have to add that in a wee bit later. So now we're going to flip our gantry over onto its back side where our motors are sticking up, just like this. And I'm just going to move these all the way forward up against my bump stops. And we're going to take this, and our cable chain side, which is this side, goes over here. So we're going to flip it over, and it will go in just like that. And we're going to put 2 bolts on the left side with 4 on the right, and they're all M3x16 bolts. So 4 on this side and just 2 on the other side. Okay, those did say 16, right? I did dig into the 16s. Let me double check here. Yep, these are 16s. That is not a lot of thread. That's like maybe 2 or 3 threads. I'm getting these snug right now. I'm not like cranking on them. Had I reamed these parts out, then it would have been like straight through, and I wouldn't have had to like screw them all the way through the flipping part. Okay. I did this um, with the I guess Y carriages all the way forward against the bump stops. So it should hopefully square this gantry a little bit while we're working on it. And then next up is going to be the Z-axis. So this is where we're going to flip it over and actually do the um, hanging of the gantry. So I'm just going to go ahead and snug these down. And what I will say is I think I will call it quits for the night here because it is kind of hot up here. And the next stage is going to get kind of interesting with hanging the gantry and cutting the belts and doing the belts and all that good stuff. So yeah, we'll prep our Z idlers or the Z bearing blocks. And then we'll install our belts on these 4 corners along with our other pieces here, which would be an M5 and an M3 screw. And then once we have our belts set up, then we will add the bottom bearing blocks. flip it over, hang it, and work on the belts. So, and what I did the last time for my last build was I actually just used the bump stops on the printer itself to hang the gantry from, rather than doing all the zip ties and all that good stuff. Oh, hey, Big Jano. Yeah, this is a purple rails or purple extrusions with orange main parts and black accent parts. So it's coming along really nicely. So like I said, the next up is going to be dealing with the belts, and I think that'll be something I want to do tomorrow night. We'll go through and get done with our belts. We'll work on our gantry alignment tomorrow night, and quite possibly run the AB belts. So maybe we'll do all of our belts tomorrow night, and we'll install, rather than this type of carriage, we'll install the CNC tap from Chaotic Labs. So we'll get our belts run and installed all tomorrow night. And then Saturday, then you see where we're at. Saturday would be a stealth burner build, which, by the way, I'm so not prepared. I still need to actually print the parts for the stealth burner. We won't do the afterburner, we'll do the stealth burner. Ooh, and then electronics. Maybe Saturday will just be an electronics day, and we'll start working on all the electronics and under the deck stuff. And we'll build the stealth burner on next Tuesday. So yeah, we'll do the Z belting and the gantry stuff tomorrow. Or I'm sorry, yeah, tomorrow. We'll do electronics on Saturday, and then next Tuesday, back at our regularly scheduled time, we can work on doing our stealth burner build and getting that installed, and then running the top end wiring. So does that sound like a plan for everybody? And once again, on our gantry here, you'll notice we did install the titanium backers as well to our extrusions. So that's just going to help make things a little more rigid and prevent warpage of the gantry from the heat soaking process, because the steel of the linear rails are going to heat soak different than the actual aluminum extrusions. So having that titanium backer plate kind of alleviates some of that built-in stress there. Ugh. Excuse me, folks. Pop those off. So yeah, with that, gang, I think, like I said, I think I'm going to go ahead and call the stream for tonight. It's just, like I said, it's just way too hot. And let's see who all we have on tonight. I gotta jump back to Twitch to see who all is on. And not a lot that I know. Ratsky is working on an electronics project. I'm not sure. A turret LMG electronics redo. And then a lot of people are playing games. We have Sid Heresy. We haven't jumped over to him in a little while. Let me see what he's doing. Hey, Darth Gollum, how are you doing? How are you doing? So tonight, stream was all about the gantry, and we have our gantry system built. So we built our AB drives with the motors. We built our idlers. Then we joined them together in the back. And then we added our linear rails to the Y and mounted our Y rails and the idlers. We built our X-axis, and we have that baseline mounted up here. We've also installed titanium backers on all three axes, X and Y, I should say. And that's going to go a long ways as far as helping us keep our gantry from bowing and rocking. Professional development on computational physics. Yeah, that sounds like a blast. Yeah, Sid's funny, especially on his music streams. I believe, what is he? He is doing soldering and synth building. So he's actually building a synthesizer right now. And you're right, he's kind of a cool little dude. I say cool little dude. He's a cool dude. So yeah, we haven't jumped over there in a while. So I think what we will do, I don't know if you guys saw that. So we're all the way forward here. I'm going to put my hand on this side and move this back. And this side's moving out. I guess it'd probably be better if I held this side down. Be easier for you guys. So let me line this up. I'm going to hold this side down and push this straight back. And you're going to see this start moving out to the side. So what that tells me is I need to loosen these bolts. And as I slide it back, this will self-center. And then I can clamp these back down. So it's just a matter of these back not being centered, which is then going to cause them to do this. So yeah. Uh-oh, you put things in the wrong side. Trust me, that happens. I still do that a lot. I still do the, even though this is my second 2.4 build, I'm sure I'm still doing one or two things wrong here or there. And I'll have to catch myself, but that's okay. That's part of the building process. That's the experience. That's why every machine that you build is unique, right? So yeah, let's go ahead. We'll jump over to Sid Heresy. Let me jump back over to my creator dashboard and just pop the raid from there. Okay, so I am going to go ahead and get that raid started, everybody. Thank you so much for being out here on a Wednesday night. I know it's a different day for me. Yesterday I had to go and have a business dinner with a bunch of my leader colleagues and our VP. So apparently it's not a good idea to blow those off, so I didn't. But thank you for hanging out with me on a Wednesday night. Thank you, Chewy. And we will be back again tomorrow night at a regularly scheduled time on Thursday. And right now, I'm going to go ahead and set up the raid, get the raid started, to head over to Sid Heresy, or Sid Heresy. And please jump over there with me. He's a really cool dude. He does a lot of electronics projects. He's a little quirky, but it's pretty fun. He's a pretty fun guy. So thank you all for being here. We'll see you all tomorrow night when we're doing all the belting for the Z-axis and the AB belts and doing our gantry de-racking. So thanks everybody for being out here. Have a great night. Bye now.